LSD is one of the most important discoveries that the human being ever made. It's the key to changing your own brain. Now, there's perhaps 1 out of 1,000, maybe 1 out of 10,000 people who are mature enough and self-confident enough to be able to use this. Particularly back in the 60s, at the height of the Judeo-Christian empire, when we were sending good Christians over to Vietnam and so forth, LSD was a very powerful revolutionary device, giving people control of their own brains.
I started to see these very geometric, bright squares, like stacked like Aztec pyramids, moving, and I was traveling down through these like repeating kind of, you know, fractaled images of everything. I mean, too many things to really describe. Music notes and colors and shapes. You asked me a lot of questions before and after about my insight into experiences.
Yeah.
How did those compare?
Well, actually, we saw something really nice in those data. So your ratings of insight for the journey, the lower dose, and then the higher dose with ayahuasca, and what we saw was that there was a graded increase in your levels of insight. So your score at baseline was 27. After the low dose experience, it was 39. After the high dose ceremony, it was 49.
Yeah, I definitely felt the larger the ayahuasca dose, the more I considered and learned about myself.
Yeah.
In this vein, we've recently completed the first phase of the first ever clinical trial, looking at psilocybin, magic mushrooms, as a treatment for major depression. So here we can see the magnitude of the effect that we're seeing with psilocybin so far.
I think MDMA assisted psychotherapy is one of the most important things that we need to be focusing right now in terms of mental health. It blows every other treatment for PTSD out the water, and it's pretty self-evident with the results and data.
Vox writer Herman Lopez reviewed dozens of studies that have been done, and he found that psychedelics show promise for treating addiction, OCD, anxiety, and in some cases, depression. One small study of 15 smokers found that 80% were able to abstain from smoking for 6 months after a psilocybin treatment. In a pilot study of 12 advanced cancer patients suffering from end-of-life anxiety, participants who took psilocybin generally showed lower scores on a test of depression. And a smaller study suggested that psilocybin treatment could actually help people with alcohol dependence cut back on their drinking days.
These drugs, again, are meant to enhance our everyday reality. They are not meant to be the focus of our reality. Luckily, psychedelics are the most difficult substances to abuse. If you were to take, say, psilocybin mushrooms or LSD 3 days in a row, by that third day it would have virtually no effect on you, unless you greatly increased the dosage you were taking. Our brains build an immediate tolerance to these substances. In the same regard, they actually are anti-addictive. There are many people who owe their recovery from being addicted to harder drugs like heroin, crack, methamphetamine, alcohol, even cigarettes, which one of the leading causes of death, pain pills. A lot of people owe their recovery to a psychedelic experience.
There was like a lot of geometric shapes, and they were very bright and colorful, like spinning and making like these beautiful, amazing, like sacred geometry patterns. And I'm going, wow, I could never imagine seeing these patterns and shapes and just the way it was going ever in my life. And I'm just like, beautiful. Like I feel like all of my neurons are like firing in some kind of beautiful pattern that will never happen again. I'm just like, most beautiful sunset ever, you know?
Concepts and ideas started to surface up to the conscious mind a bit easier, where my imagination would start to become a lot more vivid and alive. I also experienced time distortion where I perceived time to slow down. I started to see this kaleidoscopic cathedral pattern. It was like those, you know those church windows you see? It's like that kind of theme, but like very fractally.
And so I spent, like I said, about an hour to 2 hours in the woods, and then I walked home, and the craziest thing was really seeing how different the world looked on the way to the woods from the way back. Because on the way I was walking through neighborhoods to get to the woods, and my thought processes about the stuff around me, I was like completely out of touch with the world around me, basically. In my sober mind, I was completely up in my mind, my thoughts were just racing, I was completely thinking, I didn't even notice what was going on around me. But then on the way back, I just looked at everything around me, and I realized that there was so much happening. That there's so much happening in the world around me, that there's all these houses and all these people, and everyone trying to do their different things and projects, and then you look down at the ground and there's all these plants and all these different creations, and then you look up and there's the beautiful sky, and you think about space, and I just realized that there's so much happening in the world around us. And staying stuck in your mind and just thinking all day really does the present moment an injustice. It's like you're stuck in your mind, so you're out of tune with the real world, and the real world is absolutely mind-blowing and truly amazing.
Cheers.